Check, 1, 2, 3. Is this going out? Ooh. Hey Brian, this doesn't seem to be going into the stream. Should I check the channel down here?
That should be. Just talk.
Yeah. Testing 1, 2, 3. Seeing if it's on stream, it's just lower. Very good. And if I keep talking, it helps. Output a little bit. Okay, will do.
Yeah, you're there. You're
Just low. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how to wear it. Welcome, everybody. Is everyone back? Yes, yes. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Michelle's going to be our runner. Hello, I'm Mark Schneider, President of the Board. Thank you all for attending. You know me. Michelle's going to be our runner for any questions and that sort of thing later. We have kind of maybe a brief overview at this, say, quarterly checkup that we're doing. And well, we'll see. At the end, we'll have a Q&A session. There will be some information there that might be requiring a lot more discussion than most of the updates here. So if you would, let's keep that energy and vibe going by just breathing in deeply through our noses. As you breathe in, imagine feeding that air directly to the white heart center. That high vibe, the divineness of oneness that we all are. And relax in. And hear Meg's voice. And Lisa's voice. Divine Spirit, Mother, Father, God, we are grateful and honored and excited to be here all together. After 2 years, 2.5 years without a place, without a minister, we're still here because we know and affirm that we are a strong community with love for New Thought principles and the foundation that our Shipley Allenson has put in place for us helps us and carries us through. It's the foundation. And through love, all things are possible. And so it is. Amen. Communications update. You may or may not know that Mark Rosen has joined us in the communications position. We are so lucky to have him. A longtime member of Unity on the River. He's been in many different positions throughout that 25-plus year association. And he is very actively posting information and uplifting memes and that kind of thing to Facebook and Twitter, Instagram. So if you see them, follow us, follow that, and then like them. The more they get liked, the more they get passed around to people that you know and bring more attention and interest into our community here. Oh yes, and communications at unityontheriver.org. If you have any news, information that you want posted or maybe of interest to our community, send that to Mark at communications@unityontheriver.org. Property search team update. So we're going to have a property search team, a minister search team, some finance information, and then some proprietary Unity of the River business type stuff with policies. The search team, all of a sudden, and I kind of knew this, I warned you a couple of years ago, that it was going to be slow and eventually things would start to flow. The universe would provide, and it was going to be kind of like sailing. You're bored, extremely bored, there's no wind. Beautiful sun, a little bit of rain. Then all of a sudden, Ian comes. Now, that boredom is replaced with sheer terror. However, it's not that bad. We are seeing movement. There were a couple church properties that were brought to our attention a couple weeks ago. And the team went out to look at an old Baptist church in Newton, New Hampshire. On a whopping half an acre of land with 3 buildings. It was originally built in 1755. The oldest Baptist church in the country, I believe. It burned down in 1929. They rebuilt it in 1930. Michelle says no. Boston? Oh, yeah, okay, she's saying no. Okay, you're jumping ahead. So we looked at it on the outside. It doesn't look too bad. It's been empty for quite a while. The eaves are kind of rough, and the inside it has the most beautiful organ. I almost said let's buy it just for that. I don't know. It hasn't. The building hasn't been powered or had water since before 2018, and that is kind of a view of the sanctuary area. Not too bad from here, right? Now, what you can't see is the water that has dripped down the walls for years, and there's mold throughout the building. In a little crawl space under the building is the furnace, which is about the size of a very small house would have. It's completely shot. Unfortunately, with the size of the property, the condition of the property, and the asking price, what was it, about 20 cars could park in the parking lot? And it's a half acre. You can't expand. There's houses all around it. So unfortunately, that's a no-go. There was another Baptist church. I don't think I have a picture of it. Whoops. Just around the corner in Newton Junction. It's only been empty for a year or two. It's in much better shape. It's a smaller church. It has 25 parking spaces. Mm-hmm. So the property team for that first one said, no. $500,000, a half an acre. Mm-mm. So we welcome the flow. We know it's coming. We keep our eyes out. We've had a few suggestions. I had a commercial property director from my work. I work for a company in Manchester, New Hampshire. He came to check out the property with us, and he suggested, after really enjoying the old church features and that sort of thing, that we really consider buying some land, putting on a slab and utilities, and putting up our own church. That's always been a possibility. But as things are getting more interested, the team and all of us are getting more excited about actually doing that. So, Miss Renee, actually, she's on the team. Who's on the team? We have Amy Joslin, Brad Fanger, Tina Michaud Gray, who may or may not do it. She's got some family things. Susan Coburn is on this. Nancy Reese is on it. Tom Baldwin is on the team. I'm there just kind of by default. Who else is on? Lynette wants to be on. What's that? Brian is on it. He couldn't make it, but he trusted us. And the team that was there that day said no. So I hope you respect that decision. So Renee went to check out, right after we had met, the possibility of, do companies have pre-made churches or some sort of house in a box, church in a box that you can put up on a piece of property in a fairly short amount of time that's reasonably priced, and we're not stuck with whatever systems we might find in an old property. Do you want to talk about it or want me? Right. There's some examples here from a company, Morton's Buildings. They're based in Illinois. They have an office in Auburn, New Hampshire.
Yeah, I found a bunch of companies actually, but this Morton one really struck me. I want to look more into it, but it surprisingly, I'm finding from quotes I've gotten from other companies that it could be a very reasonable option. And I looked around the area, not in Amesbury or Newburyport, but probably we'd have to go to like southern New Hampshire or something. You can get some pretty decent land, like 2 acres, 3 acres for about $200,000, which is, for now, pretty reasonable. And the buildings, these guys, I want to check into them some more. I'm actually going to go to their office and see what they've got to offer, but I think it might be something to consider. I mean, definitely if we can get a decent piece of land that has room and put one of these buildings up, it'll cost the same or less than like that church that we looked at last week that was ridiculously expensive and needed too much work. So something to think about. It sounds like a great company, this Morton's. So I'm going to check out some more about them. But anyways, if you want to show them the pictures, they had some gorgeous different design styles of churches. Like they already have them designed. It's not like we have to go in there and figure out everything. So anyways, they look interesting. It's an interesting route to go.
Renee, I went on the site and looked around, and I also read what they said, and you can also do a prefab building designed to your specifications. Yeah, and I think that's a great advantage because, you know, this might be too elaborate, too much building, but, you know, there are different things to consider.
Yes, they do work with you. I just put pictures in I thought were representative of some prettier stuff that they had. They even had some small ones that were about 6,000 or 5,000 square foot that was just, you know, this with an entryway. So just a representation.
This model has been successful for 70 years, so it's just applying it to churches. It seems really smart.
Exactly. And then on to our minister search. With some slowness and not much response through August and September, we received 4 applications for minister. 4 candidates. You know of one of them, Shirley McAfee. She was with Unity of Cherry Valley near Worcester, which has folded during COVID, and she'd been with us before to attend services, and was returning to attend with us again, and she was very excited about the position. Now, she served in leadership with a couple different Unity churches, and she is an approved candidate from Unity Worldwide Ministries. We do have 3 others, and we're not going to release their names yet due to the process that we're in the middle of, which is. Oh, and Martine Bernard has withdrawn her name. She has another 1.5 years till she gets her ministerial ordination and certification. And she just feels she needs to concentrate on that. Now is not the time for her to try to lead a church. The next steps are our reference checks. The minister team are all taking references for the 4 candidates, and over the next week or so, they'll be calling them. After that process, we'll analyze the information and then go on to scheduling candidate interviews. After they pass that, and the candidate interviews, sort of optimistic, it could be by the end of October, beginning of December. These folks probably are pretty excited to talk with us, and we are with them. After the online interviews with the team and the candidate are done, again, analyzation, and the team will recommend the final candidates to be brought in for the community, and that will involve a weekend service and workshop with a Q&A afterwards, to which every congregant is invited to come to, and there will be a survey. So you can, during the service and the workshop and talking to them afterwards, analyze them, look at what they answer, how they approach their ministry, what they focus on. Does it match what Unity on the Rivers is? Fill out that form, turn it in. The team, again, will correlate all that information. And when they've all been brought in and have done that process, then we'll select a minister. We'll talk to them, we'll start working about the contract and benefits and that sort of thing, and at that point, we should be moving on to a finalization of a hire. Sherry had a first question.
Those guys first.
Our next church has to have microphones hanging like the old one did.
My question, oh, that's loud. My question is, if the four candidates, I believe it is four, if the four candidates that we have right now are not the right fit, do we continue our search?
Very
I
good.
pray.
Very good question. We're not closing the position listing with Unity Worldwide Ministries until we actually hire a minister.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought we had agreed that we might defer the interviews and the workshops until after the holidays, even though we pick people.
We have agreed on that this is some of the team talking that occurred, but we're also being flexible. So
Okay.
the first 2 weeks of November, the first 2 weeks of December, just so that it's not crowding the actual holiday weekends.
Okay.
If that's acceptable to all parties.
Thanks.
And Amy?
When we get to the point when we start to have candidates come in to do their service and their workshops, what we will be interested in is anyone who's willing to host someone in their home for 2 nights, or people that are willing to make airport runs and things like that. So if that's something that you're interested in, or you have the space to do that, please speak to me or email me at godasme@hotmail.com. But that's something to think about ahead of time, if that's something that you're interested in doing for us. I know that we've done that in the past for guest speakers and everything. So
Perfect timing, and that does apply also if the minister that's applying has a spouse or significant other. It is customary to have them come too, so they can check out our region and also get to know us as well. I can talk about regions. We have one person from California, one person from Florida in this batch of 4. And actually, Virginia. Virginia, yes. Oh, good. Just a quick summary on financials. On the average, over this past summer, we had about the normal attendance, maybe a bit more. I phrased it as it's been better than average attendance. Sometimes in the summer times, people cut way back and they're all on vacation. So that has been the interest, and maybe the programs have been enough to keep people coming, or they're just not traveling for vacation very much. But that is kind of a nice, interesting part of it. We do continue to have tithes coming in. A lot of it is shared by a few very generous donors, and kind of like with volunteers. As we get more engaged and have more programs, we're hoping that the interest and the support will continue to come in and even increase, because we're always looking for volunteers and more tithes, because we tithe it right back out. We have to stay in the flow. We had been tracking the money market that the property sale funds had been in, and it didn't perform as originally we had hoped it would. It was really about 1%. So Stan, our director of operations, took a look at treasury bills, CDs, and other type investment funds with Edward Jones. And the only thing we found to be safe would be the treasury bills and the CDs. The CDs are about 3 or 4%, and the T-bills are at 3%. So he's moving $400,000 in. The CDs are a 6-month life, and the treasury bills can be pulled anytime if we do get a property that shows up. And as things continue in another month or so, seeing where the rates are, we might put more in. All told, we have sorry, I don't have that figure in my head, over $850,000 that we need to try to get interest on. But good find by him. We thank him very much. We still have the project for saving money with our hosting of our website, the communications, One Hub. There's a bunch of different technical services that we use, they do cost a bit of money, and we're finding they're not very flexible. So with Mark Rosen in as communications, we're moving further forward to find better, more cost-saving solutions. No, the upcoming holidays. We are still interested. We're still going to do a Thanksgiving Thanksgiving Eve, right? Dinner and service. We're looking for a location, and the same for our holiday dinner. We had been using the Masonic Hall here in town, but they had a boiler blowout and a plumbing leak, and they're not quite sure how long it's going to take to recover. So Thanksgiving might be out. Stan and Mark are looking for other places in town. Oh, what's that? Peter Hall? Oh, okay. I don't know, but that's okay. Peter Hall, let's send that on to Stan, and he can contact them, or if you wanted to reach out to start that up. Yes. Yep. And we're just about done here. So it's the end of the year. In January, typically January, February is when new board members would be coming on, and any board members that have to leave will be going off. Sharon Maroney will be going off. She extended her 6-year tenure to 7 years, just due to circumstances. I'm re-upping. I just finished 3 years. I will sign on for another 3 years if you'll keep me. But thanks, Peter. He said he'd keep me. For all you streamers out there. But we're pretty stable, I think. Does Rena have to come off? See, that's why I'm not a really powerful presenter, because I always ask questions of myself while I'm talking. But we're looking pretty good. Do step up. It is very rewarding, and you'll be very surprised at not only how challenged you are, but how much you'll grow. I've never really regretted stepping up on the board. She has. That's my wife over there. Yes. Amy asked what the requirements are. So to be on the board, you need to be a member of the church for at least a year, which requires your basics, your Unity Basics course, your conscious communication / nothing and no one against you, prosperity class, and yeah, that was the first one, Unity Basics. But it's 4. There's a 4th one that. Well, that goes without.
Amy,
without
will
saying.
there be any opportunity to have some of those courses offered for us, or people would just need to do them online? Hold on. I asked you a question, and I need to bring it.
Yes, we will have courses available if anyone needs them to take, whether it be
Perfect.
Unity Basics or the Prosperity class. Eye of the Storm, that would be,
The Q process.
either the Q process, or we were doing Gina's offering as well, the nonviolent communication.
Nonviolent
But if we can do
communications.
the quantum process, either or, but that's up to you, if whether Annie or Tom are interested in teaching that for
Right.
folks.
The board meets the 3rd Thursday of every month. And once you're on the board, you do have to serve for a year before you can be an officer, which would be the president, vice president, treasurer, or secretary. Yes, Nancy? Nancy asked if we meet in person or Zoom. It's a mix. It depends on who can make it, if we can all make it, and what's going on at the time. They are public. Anybody can come to attend them, or you just contact us. And again, our email is board@unityontheriver.org. So you are welcome to attend. If we do have any financial information or something that's personal in nature that we need to discuss, we do ask that you come in for that most of the board meeting and then leave for that one section. Very good. We are looking for a service volunteer coordinator, pardon me. There are a lot of things in this church to do, and you might see board members, you might see the same faces doing them every week. I encourage you. Step up, come on in. It's very rewarding, and it spreads the work out. Hospitality. Yes, do we have anybody for hospitality for October? Oh, that's very sweet. Louise is standing up for it, and Lynette also. Oh, very good. So social justice is taking one, tuba is taking another. Streamers are having some discussion between teams.
Yeah.
If you are interested, just email info@unityontheriver.org, and Stan or I will get in touch with you. All right. The very last subject here is employment policies and procedures with Unity on the River. In August, we had perhaps an upsetting and very misunderstood event that occurred. A longtime member of the band, and also a member of this church, longtime member, was asked to become a monthly type soloist and not to be a full-time member of the band for every week. This decision was made by our music director, Meg Rain, and she came upon that decision based on the needs of the music team and the desire for the team to keep growing and fulfill its purpose to add to the flow of the service, to be able to do things that maybe they haven't done before. Keith is a wonderful soloist. He is a very gifted musician. I can't say, I don't want to say too much because, some of it's personal in nature. We all know and love Keith, and we care about him deeply. But one of the things he lacks is an ensemble work. So there's certain kinds of music he can play very well, and others maybe not so well, and that can cause a little bit of dis-ease in the musical unit. It was a very difficult choice. The 24th of August was a Wednesday, and Meg reached out to me to let me know that this was coming. Thursday night was our board meeting, and that was the longest, most intense board meeting I've been to for a long, and I've been on the board, 8 years or so, all told. Anyway, the decision was not made lightly, and it was also understood, or needs to be understood, that in the operations of something, to make things better, to continue to grow, change has to happen. And sometimes that change is not a comfortable thing. Not everyone will like it. It is very difficult, and it can be. The main thing is that we love him, we support him. He's been invited to come back and perform at least once a month to do what he does best. And we're waiting for him to respond in kind so that he will come back. I'm sure he feels awkward and hurt. So a question was the status of our employment policies, especially concerning terminations, and what is the process for seeing some sort of issue with an employee and then improving on that. So we do have a real employer's handbook with a 5-step policy. Noticing something by the supervisor, talking to that employee, offering them training, special consideration, whatever, to help them achieve, putting an improvement plan in place. And if all of that fails, then the employee can be terminated. And also, Massachusetts is an at-will type state, so anybody can do this. As far as when you're working for someone, legally, if a company wants to fire you, they can fire you. Well, Unity doesn't work that way, right? We are always focused on that divine oneness. Now, did we follow this process completely with Keith? I would say not exactly. Keith is a subcontracted musician. He's been playing up on stage for 20 some odd years. And through that period, the corrections, the guidance has been there from 4 different music directors and 2 different ministers. So do we have an improvement plan for him? Not really. The ability to learn how to play well in an ensemble situation, it's kind of something you got to work at very hard. You may know or may not know, I was a professional trombone player, and I taught children privately for 20 years. I was a professional musician for 35, almost 40. 3 years ago, 6 years ago, I got my dream job, mostly due to Unity, thought, and working on being my highest self. 3 years into that, I was still playing with the Portsmouth Symphony. I was playing with 2 jazz bands. I was playing with a brass quintet. One of the other players came to me and said, "Mark, you're slipping. When you're on, it's beautiful. You're the voice of God." If you know trombones, that's exactly what they are. He said, "But when you're missing, when you're not doing it, it really shows." This is just my experience, but I was really mad. And I said some words that maybe I shouldn't have. You might understand that. But after a week or so of meditating, and a month after that, I made a decision that he was right. And I chose my career versus my music career. So I made the choice to either improve myself or not. And that's all any of us can do. We all do the best we can. We're accountable for our own actions and thoughts. Amy, yes.
Years ago, we used to have covenants. So when you entered into service, whether it was a volunteer or as an employee, and people would sign them, and they would put in there what they wanted to work on, how they wanted to grow. And then the whole idea of that was, when a year came up and your covenant was done, do you still want to continue to serve? All of that, and there was an accountability piece there. And I think that might be something that we want to bring back. And I also think that the accountability on staff part too, like if you're a staff member, needing to look at your role in things as well, is really important for that. And maybe coming up with a way of how we handle when we need to let someone go. Like, what kind of support are we offering him? I can speak to this a little bit because, I was let go, and in the devastation that I felt with that, that there needs to be something done to support people being able to still be a part of this community after they've served, and how to be able to come back to that. So I would love to see that. I just wanted to know if anyone has really reached out to Keith to check in and see how he's doing.
Wait a minute. Andrea, wait.
Oh, good. Thank you, Amy. Those are processes that are actually we're looking at as well. How can we improve it? How can we make it clearer? If we had a method for posting it at the time it was happening, we don't have policies that are clear on that. Where's the guideline between an employee and an employer versus, the benefit of the whole community?
And a contractor versus a full-time employee.
The truth, yeah.
I mean, that gig workers are, known to be.
Nancy, if you're going to keep talking, please. Oh, okay. So I've spoken with Keith a few times, and I think he's doing pretty well, actually. And it's a big change in his life, of course. He's been up there every week for all these years, every time I've been here for 10 years. So
Yeah.
he just wanted to give a little quick message because he knows a lot of people are concerned about him, care about him. And he wanted to say happy Sunday to my brothers and sisters. And he says, I miss them more than they may know. I was thinking of coming to today's community meeting after church and realizing that I was not on the docket, decided it would not be kind to show up unannounced. I'm hoping to have an opportunity to meet with my brothers and sisters following next Sunday's service to fill them in, as many have called and have been concerned and wondering about recent events. So I think he's doing pretty good, and I hope to see him next week.
I love hearing that. Lynette has a question. Lynette has something to share.
Yeah, I just want to say, for me, what has kept me coming and what's got us all through COVID is Meg and the music team. And I don't ever want to have us question the quality of what we get every Sunday from Meg's leadership. And I trust her implicitly as an employee of our church to make those kinds of decisions. And I think that we really need to be wary against any kind of divisiveness that might separate us or, cause us to move away from the oneness that we want to be. And we've entrusted Meg and the music team to do a job, and I will leave it to them and trust in their intuition to make good decisions for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that.
What happened to Keith happened to me after when Curtis left and Ken came. And I was the assistant music director, and I had a paid position. And Ken fired me. He just fired me and said, you're for, what he said was, this is, you support Curtis, you don't support me. And I said, well, if you're going to be the music, I've got to, he said, well, I'm changing things. So after I had some years there, which, wasn't as many as Keith, but what I did, because it's principles over personalities, is I continue to come devotedly as a church member. Now, I understand that Keith, how he feels, but what I want us to do is bring him back into the fold in that, and then and there may be another way he can serve along with being a guest performer. But I wanted to put my experience, what Unity has taught me goes beyond anything for my career, for my relationships. It's all, has brought me into an understanding of nothing is against me. So again, we live these principles and we love each other. And I just thank you so much for your support here. And again, I'm for Keith too. This isn't about me, anything against him. It was about the team and what had been going on for years in the team. And I got a direct call I felt like I got godsmacked and told, this is where we are going. You must respond to this. So thank you for your trust in me.
And are there any more questions? Jim McQuaid?
Who makes the final decision on the minister?
The final decision is made by the board, based upon the recommendations of the Minister Search Committee and their documentation of the whole process. And part of that is also the congregation, not necessarily members, the congregation attending the workshops, the services, and the QAs, and filling out the surveys.
Shirley, that was the woman who spoke a couple of weeks ago. That was not considered her interview weekend, right?
No,
Okay,
no,
good.
she was already scheduled as a guest speaker. It just, her information came in, and I think we got excited and ended up being posted up as part of her guest speaker announcement on the website. Susan?
The last time we did a minister, went through the ministerial interviewing process and the workshops, et cetera, there was on Monkey Chip,
Oh, that's right, Survey Monkey.
Survey Monkey,
Yes.
an opportunity for individuals to offer their opinions on who they would hire, and I think there was a ranking too. I'm not sure about that.
Mhm.
I would encourage us to do that again,
Yes.
because that gives a broader base for people to respond.
Exactly. The same survey form that's available if you're here to fill out manually will also be updated and be on the Survey Monkey, so that people can go there and do the exact same, answer the multiple choice questions, and also there's a blurb at the bottom for input, thoughts, that sort of thing.
What would happen is we would get the person that was most popular with most of the people.
Well, there's a lot more to it than that. As going back to what the process is, the first thing begins with evaluating, as any employer would, evaluating their work history, their education, the references, what they have done, what they're interested in.
Well, what I considered most important was what they came up with the visioning. If that person fit the vision that we had written down, the closest person to that would be the most valid candidate, in my opinion.
Very good.
Okay.
Now, bear in mind, sometimes I speak more as a board member than a congregant because I'm thinking as an employer as well.
I just want to say thank you for recognizing that we did have a vision for a minister, and I hope that when people are making that decision, they look at the person who matches up to what our ideals are. Thank you very much.
Yes.
There it is. Can we see
That's at the front. That's at the front, everything that we do. There's also a list of attributes that came out of that, as well as the attributes for our visioning for Unity on the River with Martha Creek a year ago. As the same.
When we did the visioning, joy was a very high component of what we wanted to see happen. And so I want to make sure that that happens, that's all.
Excellent.
Do we query check people? What? Do we query check people?
We will.
Okay.
They've been pre-checked by Unity Worldwide Ministries.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, never mind.
As well as their credentials being checked and part of their work history, making sure. They also have a psychological evaluation that's part of it as well.
Yes.
Nancy Reese.
So from what you're saying, I assume that will be posted for all congregants to look at their sermons and their past of the candidates that get to interview, and congregants listen to the workshop and the sermon here. They can also listen to the other talks when they vote.
Yes, it is very common for ministers in this day and age to have their talks and/or various other functions up on YouTube or other media. So when we get to the point where the final candidates are announced, I don't know if we'll put links in, but a Google search will bring you right to a lot of the services and recordings of people out there. I see a whole bunch of happy faces here, Mosley. Anything else? Well, thank you very much for coming. That's going to conclude today. In that vibe we had today, go out and have a wonderful day. Do some random acts of kindness. Let this just flow out with you. Thank you.